Good afternoon on the East Coast. Good morning everywhere else in the country. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer, and I want to answer your questions today about winning asylum in America. This is the Asylum Answer Show, where you get to ask a former asylum officer turned immigration lawyer all about winning asylum in America. That's what we're talking about here. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at on YouTube. Hello on LinkedIn. Hello on Facebook. Hello on TikTok, as we call it. I'm Brian Manning, and yeah, so I used to be an asylum officer with the government with USCIS, but about 5.5 years ago, I got kind of sick of that, and I left and I started my own law firm. And now my law firm, it's based in Texas, but it doesn't matter. We help people all over the country. It doesn't matter where you are. I started a law firm and we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. That's what we do. That's what we focus on all day, every day is asylum. All right. And that's what I want to help you with. And that's what I want to answer your questions about today. So let me know in the chat what questions you have. But actually, before you start leaving the questions, say hi, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. We got Mana and Binyam over on TikTok. AFG Cricket, glad that you're here. Thanks for being here. We got Abu Ibrahim Ba on YouTube. Dimitro Creator says hi, Brian. Hi, Brian says Amin Neb. Hi, says Abu. Nice. Good to see you guys. Thanks. Hello, sir. Watching from MA from Massachusetts, says Sadish of Sunke. Super. Thanks for being with us. All right. Uh, oh, nice. This is a cool comment. Kent Bummer M says, "Hi, Brian. Fees are waived. Cards being produced. If you know, you know." Thank you so much, Brian. That first, last, worst framework has proven to be crucial during my asylum interview. Thanks again. Let me ask, does anyone else know what Kent's talking about when he says that first, last, worst framework proved to be crucial during his interview? Anyone else has? If you know what the first, last, worst framework is, let me know. Do you know what it is? Anybody know what it is? Anybody tell us what it is in the chat? Nice, nice. We got I am Abrar from Virginia. You're one of the best lawyers. Thank you for your efforts to support us. You're welcome. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Hi from California, says Mana. Um, all right. Nice. From Chicago, joining in, says Junior. Awesome. Chi-Town. Great city. Yovan says watching from Kansas. Again, nice. Glad to have you back here from Kansas. Uh, Amin says from New York. Awesome. And we've got a few people from New York. We have a lot of clients in New York. I love New York. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. Um, and we've helped a lot of people to win asylum in New York. Back to the first, last, worst framework that Kent Mummer talked about. He said, or they said, "Thank you so much, Brian. The first, last work framework has proven to be crucial during my interview. Thanks again." And they won their case, it looks like. Um, so what is that? So the question is this. So what is the first, last, worst framework? This is something that asylum officers are taught to use when they're interviewing someone, an asylum applicant who's been through a lot. If someone has had a lot of incidents of harm or a lot of threats, sometimes there's just not time in an interview to go through every single one of them in detail. And so they'll say, look, I really want to focus on um, a few different things. I want you to tell me about the first time that you were harmed, like the very first time it happened. Um, I want you to tell me about the last time, meaning like the most recent time. And then I want you to tell me about the worst time, the time that they sort of did the worst things to you, that was really the worst time. Maybe you were injured the worst. And sometimes the worst is the same as either the first or the last, but not always. But this is a framework that asylum officers are taught to use to sort of streamline an interview and get to understand the most important parts of your case if you've got a lot of things going on in your case. So if you in your declaration, if you talked about 15 different incidents of harm, you got attacked 15 times at your interview, they might say, look, I know you've been through a lot, but I really want to focus first at least on three things. The first time you were harmed, the most recent time, i.e. last time, and the worst incident, the very time they harmed you the worst. And so I recommend that you basically memorize all the details that you can think of for every single incident of harm or threat. But really, if you have to prioritize, really focus on memorizing details and being fluent in speaking about and talking about the first time, the last time, and the worst time, because officers often do use this first, last, worst framework, as we can see on this comment on YouTube from one of our viewers. One of our fans said they said it was very helpful during their interview, and they won Asylum. So keep that in mind. The first, last, worst framework. We got Heart Locker. My name is Nazir Muhammad. Hey, good to have you with you, Heart Locker. Nazir, thanks for being with us. Hello from Virginia. We're having our assignment interview in 1 week. We were waiting for it almost 10 years, says Marusha or Marusia. Look, Marusia, if you go literally today and schedule a consultation with us, we have time to do a mock interview. That's the most important part of the entire case. Look, I'm going to show you on the screen what this looks like. Hold on, let me just change something here. Asylumprep.com. I want to show you something on my screen, because I think you're exactly the kind of person we made this for, Mauricio. It's called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. This is a web page I put together. It's just been up for like a couple of weeks. This is a new service that we're offering, and I don't know how long it's going to last, because honestly, it might not be the smartest thing financially for my law firm, the way we're doing this. So it might not last for very long. So if you want to get help with preparing, everyone, not just people who have their interview scheduled, anyone who's seeking asylum, if you want to get help with your asylum case in the most impactful way possible, or help with the most important thing, which is preparing for your interview, practicing for your interview, which Akhtar Zada says you have your interview at the end of this month. This is perfect for you, but it's also perfect for people that don't even have an interview scheduled yet. It's called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. On this webpage that I'm going to show you the address for in just a second, I've put together a very thorough information page about this. This is a video at the top. It's actually quite long and detailed, in which I tell you all about what we call the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. And so below the video, there's just like a really long webpage. It scrolls forever with information about this opportunity, this package that we're offering. And yeah, so there's tons of information here. You can watch the video, or you can read the whole webpage, or both. And basically, in a nutshell, this is a service that we started offering recently for people that are not in a position to hire us for their whole representation. We understand, I've come to appreciate, really, I think more recently, that there's a lot of people out there that want help and they need help, but they're not in a position to hire us for like a full-scale representation, either because of timing concerns or money, okay, because it's expensive. This is a service that I put together recently to help people in what I thought was the most powerful way that I possibly could, while still making it affordable, much cheaper than hiring us for full representation, and also making it something that we can do on short notice, okay? That we can do quickly. Even for people that have their interview literally 1 week away, you can still benefit from this, but you got to schedule the consultation like today. You need to go today to schedule the consultation, and you can do the consultation tomorrow, and we'll have time to do this. But if you wait another day, we won't have time to do this, okay? So this is asylumprep.com. Where you can find all that information, the website that I was just showing you, all this information about what we call the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. It's a preparation packet to help you prepare for your interview. And the core of it is a practice interview or a mock interview. This is the most important thing we can do to help you. All right. Go to asylumprep.com if you want to learn all about how we might be able to help you prepare for your asylum interview. All right. All right. Junior Richard says, my interview is next month, but I'm scared to go to court. Do you mean you have a court hearing next month, or an asylum interview with USCIS? I assume you mean a court hearing. Let me know. Clarify that for me, Junior. All right. Aranzazu Rodriguez says, is there any difference between sending an answer by mail or when they ask you to go to the USCIS asylum office? Good question. The question is this. Why does USCIS ask some people to come back and pick up their decision in person at the asylum office after the interview? But for some people, they say, oh, don't come back. We're going to mail it to you. And does one mean that you're more likely to win than the other? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't mean that you're more likely to win or lose, depending on how they deliver your decision to you. In the past, it was just when I was an asylum officer, and I'm pretty sure that it's still this way, it was just based on where you lived. If you lived far away, they said they will mail it to you. If you live close to the asylum office, they ask you to come back in 2 weeks to pick it up. But when they ask you to come back in 2 weeks and pick it up, sometimes they call you during that time or send you a letter like in the first week and say, actually, never mind, don't come pick it up because it's not going to be ready yet. We need some more time. And so we're going to mail it to you. But that also, when that happens, that also is something from which we cannot draw conclusions. It does not necessarily mean, oh, it's a good sign for your case, or oh, it's a bad sign, there's a problem. We really can't take anything from the method of delivery of your decision. Okay, it doesn't tell us anything about the likelihood for success. All right. All right, I have a lawyer already, but can I still use your office as a second lawyer? Asked Junior Richards. Good question. The question is this. Let's say you already have a lawyer representing you, not my law firm, another lawyer, and you're happy with him. You don't want to fire him, you don't want to change, but you're interested in getting our help with the preparation for your asylum interview or your hearing, because look, we do preparation different than what your lawyer is going to do. I'm not aware of any other law firm that does preparation like we do preparation. We do a full-scale practice interview, and then we do a 2-hour mock interview, and then we do a follow-up 30-minute debrief session where we give you feedback and all of our best tips. And we're also going to record those, the audio and the video of those practice sessions, and give it to you so you can keep benefiting from it all the way up to your interview. We're currently offering an additional sort of bonus package for people that do this right now, and of additional trainings. And you can benefit from all this, even though you have another lawyer. You don't have to fire your lawyer. They can still be your lawyer. They can still go with you to the interview. In fact, I think they will like the fact that you're hiring us to help you with the preparation. We're doing part of their job for them. Like we are going to, I believe we're going to drastically increase your chances for success in your asylum case, which just makes them look good when you win your case. So look, I mean, ask them, run it by them, but I mean, see what they think about it. But I think they're probably going to say yes when you say, hey, this other law firm is offering a special preparation package where I don't have to hire them to be my actual lawyers. I'm just doing a preparation experience with them. And the guy that created it is a former asylum officer. Now he's an asylum lawyer, and all that law firm does is asylum. Do you think I should do that? I think your lawyer is going to say, absolutely. So yeah, you can do it. All right. Do all asylees get a green card interview with the new administration, or do some not get it? The current policy is for all green card applicants to get interviews based on everything, all kinds of green card application. Every kind of green card application will get an interview at current. If someone, quadruple A on YouTube says, if someone applies for affirmative asylum after 1 year but qualifies for an exception, like maintained F1 status, for example, is USCIS more likely to deny and refer the case to court? Good question. The question is this. If you're applying for asylum after having been in the United States for more than a year, but you do qualify for an exception, because remember there's exceptions to the 1 year filing deadline, is it harder to win your case, assuming that you do qualify for an exception, but you applied after 1 year? No. I mean, if you qualify for the exception, then you've cleared that hurdle, and then you just have to meet the normal asylum eligibility requirements apart from the 1 year filing deadline issue. So, I mean, look, it is hard to qualify for an exception to the 1 year filing deadline. It's a tricky area of law. It's very complicated. It's hard to meet that requirement to say, yes, you qualify for an exception. But if you do qualify, if you convince the officer that you qualify for an exception, then you're no more or less likely to win or lose your case than someone who applied during their first year. All right. All right. Amin Neb says, since I hid my sexuality in a country where it's criminalized and was harmed by my family at age 16 when no phones were available to document it, is evidence mandatory? How can I support my story? Well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that you've been through that. All of that sounds incredibly difficult and sad and scary. And I'm sorry that you went through all of that. And I hope you're getting help that you need to heal now. Okay. The question then is this. What can you do? And can you even win your case if you don't have evidence of bad things that you went through in your country? And the answer is you definitely can. Look, if you can get evidence that backs up what you're saying, that supports your story and your case, then sure, you should try to get it. But I need you to understand, it's not critical to win your case. It's not required to win your case. In fact, You can win asylum without any evidence whatsoever. You can win based just on your testimony, based on what you say on the day of your asylum interview, as long as your testimony is detailed, consistent, and plausible. That's the standard the asylum officers are judging you against. Is your testimony detailed, consistent, and plausible? So, look, if you can get evidence, great. If not, don't worry about it too much because it's not a huge deal. You can win without it. You just got to be super, super prepared. You got to practice. You got to practice telling your story and answering questions, including difficult and probably even hostile questions in some cases. You got to prepare, but that's the key. But yeah, you can win without evidence. All right. Good question. I mean, let's see. What questions do you have about winning asylum in America? For those who just joined us recently, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the Houston USCIS Asylum Office, but now I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Okay. Right. What questions? Power Stroke. Thank you for sharing this live. Very, very nice of you. I appreciate it. Uh, Guys on YouTube, TikTok, share this live so that more folks who might be able to benefit from what we're talking about today can see it and can benefit. Okay. All right. Uh, nice, interesting questions. Very interesting questions. Thank you for that. TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. Uh, Good to see you. Johnny Bravo says, how this woman from Venezuela are making government hard to do things. Not sure I follow that. Is that a question or a statement? Do you want to try to rephrase that for me, Johnny Bravo? All right. Uh, nice. Alex NY joining in says, Alex up in NYC. Glad to have you on today, Alex. Good to see you again. John's Contreras says, how to approach the court to close or pause asylum so I can continue with I-601A. You can make what's called a motion to administratively close the case or to dismiss the case, but it's very unlikely the judge will agree to that now. Under the Trump administration, it's very unlikely that the prosecutors from ICE will agree to that, will support that. And when they don't support it, the judge probably won't agree to your request. So you can try, but I wouldn't count on it. I think it's unlikely that you will have success with getting the case dismissed or put on what they call administrative closure status, such that honestly, probably you're just going to need to focus on winning your asylum case. You just got to win your asylum case. You got to focus on winning your asylum case. Okay. All right. What questions do you have about winning asylum in America? Gladys wants to know: can you file more statements after over 7 years after filing to update the case? Good question. The question is this: can you update your case by adding additional evidence or maybe new country conditions information or like a new or updated declaration years after applying for asylum? And the answer is yeah, you definitely can. You definitely should, I think, with respect to country conditions information. We're talking about reports or news articles or things about conditions in your country that help support your case, the arguments you're making. But with respect to evidence as well, like other evidence that's not your declaration, then I think that yes, if new evidence becomes available, you should submit that. Whether you should submit a new or sort of like an updated version of your declaration is a closer question. I'm not sure always. In fact, usually we say no. Usually we think it's counterproductive to file an updated or like amended declaration. It's kind of a long story as to why, but the short version is that asylum officers look skeptically at it. They like, oh, that seems fraudulent to us. It's unfortunate, and I think it's dumb, honestly, that they do that. But that is a prevailing sense in the asylum office, that it's like problematic if someone updates their declaration or adds new things to it. So I still want you to talk about that. I want you to talk about everything during your interview that's relevant to establishing your eligibility for asylum. It's just putting it in writing in like an updated declaration for some reason is looked down upon in the asylum office. So usually we advise against that. All right. Biniam Desta says, "Hi Brian, from California. 4 years now since I got my work permit. Mandamus, is it good?" The question is this: when are you in a good position to have success with a mandamus lawsuit to force your asylum interview, to move your case forward? Look, there's no hard and fast rule on this. In my office, we're currently saying 5 years. Like we will only take a mandamus case to force an interview or decision where the person applied for asylum 5 years or more ago. Can you win with less time at like 3 years or 4 years? It may be possible. We have in the past, we have won cases at 3 years. But right now, our policy is 5 years, 5 year minimum. So if you want to hire us for mandamus, I'd say wait a little bit longer until you get to 5 years. But there's stuff that we can do in the meantime. If you want to start working on your case and having us help you improve your case, then we can start that right now. There's no reason not to do that right now. And then once we get to the 5 years, we can move forward with the mandamus. Okay. All right. Okay. Ooh. No name says, or no name Oro Man says 9 years at Los Angeles Asylum office, still waiting for the interview. Please, no name Oro Man, go to winasylum.com and schedule this consultation. Okay. At 9 years, you are in a very good position to have success with a mandamus lawsuit, and we want to help you with that. All right. We've had a lot of success in these cases, and 9 years, you're in a very good position for success. Please go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation so we can talk with you in detail about this. All right. Alrighty. What questions do you have about winning asylum in the United States? Is it still safe to apply for asylum now? Good question, says Kagweda 20. The question is this: in the current anti-immigrant environment, does it still make sense to apply for asylum? Look, when you apply for asylum, you're taking on some risk. You're like raising your hand and putting yourself sort of on the government's radar. So there's some risk there, but you have to balance that with what's going on in your life, and your likelihood for success based on expert guidance from an asylum lawyer, and the risks that you're facing back in your country to decide whether it makes sense to apply. But what I can tell you is that people are still winning asylum. People are still winning asylum. Okay, it's not impossible to win even in the current environment. It seems like it's almost every day that we're getting new approval notices for our clients. People keep winning. We keep winning for our clients. I believe we're going to keep winning. It's not going to stop. Okay, it's harder. It's getting harder. The overall approval rates for asylum seekers are going to go down and down and down, I believe, throughout the Trump administration. But it's not impossible. I think we're going to keep winning. And so, yeah, sometimes the decision of whether to apply. It's a tough one because it's a big important thing that we're talking about. But it's something that you should be informed about by an asylum lawyer. We do this we talk through this with you. We help you understand more of the important things to consider and talk through it in an asylum strategy session. If you want to talk through it, you can schedule that at winasylum.com, winasylum.com. Again, winasylum.com. Okay, winasylum.com. Thanks. Junior Richards says, I want to schedule a consultation, do the recorded question and answer session. So yeah, Junior, so you got to do the consultation first, and then we'll see if you qualify for what we call the mock asylum interview experience. That's the practice interview, and then a follow-up session, debrief session, where we do record those, the audio and the video, and we also give you transcripts and AI generated summaries of them that you can keep benefiting from no matter when your interview or hearing is. All right. So yeah, the first step is a consultation. Schedule that at winasylum.com. winasylum.com. All right. Leonardo Alcantara says it's okay to do mandamus lawsuit after 3 years of pending application. For us right now, the minimum is 5. All right. Uh, we're waiting 5 years, unfortunately. Um, but I'm not saying it's impossible. All right. It's been Murphy Glore says it's been 6 months since I did my interview with USCIS, but never received the decision. What can the issue be, and what can I do about it? Good questions. The question is this: why does it sometimes take USCIS a long time, like months, to send you a decision after your asylum interview at the asylum office? And what can you do about it to try to get it done and decided? Look, usually it's not a bad sign, or usually it does not mean that there's a problem with your case. Usually it's just that the asylum officer is overwhelmed and they're behind on their work. There's a backlog, and they just haven't gotten around to doing what they need to do to process it and to finalize it and make the decision, because there is a lot of work involved. After the interview, the officer has to do quite a lot of work to sort of finish out a case, and they just get overwhelmed and backlogged. Okay, so usually it's not a good sign, it's not a bad sign. It means nothing about your chances for success, the fact that it's taking a long time. Usually. What can you do? Look, email the asylum office and say, hey, I had my interview on X date. I'm more than happy to send the officer anything else they need from me if that would help to make the decision. Also, by the way, could you please let me know when I could expect to receive it, the decision? Now, rarely, but sometimes, that's enough to get the interview, or excuse me, to get the decision scheduled, because it just puts you back on their radar. And they sometimes are like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and finish this one out. And they'll do it. Rarely, though. But if it does not work, then the question is that I have for you is, when did you apply for asylum? You said you interviewed 6 months ago, but when did you apply? If you applied 5 years or more ago, I think you're in a very good position to have success with a Mandamus lawsuit, it's called, a lawsuit where you sue the government to force them to give you the decision. So if you applied 5 years or more ago, we should talk. All right. Marion says, if someone applies immediately for the green card after approval, won't USCIS reject the application because it hasn't been a year yet? A small issue can cause a referral to deportation. Good question. The question is this: is there a risk in applying for your green card based on asylum before you reach the 1 year mark of having been granted asylum? Is there a risk of it getting rejected and being put in deportation proceedings? No, I think the risk would be super low because, look, and in fact, we're doing this. I recommend doing it. I recommend applying for the green card immediately after you win asylum. The sooner the better. Like the next day is ideal. Look, to date, USCIS has not rejected these when you apply before reaching 1 year of post asylum grant physical presence in the United States. Rather, they don't pick them up and they don't do anything with them until after 1 year. Because remember, there's a queue, there's a waiting line right now to have your application considered to even be adjudicated. And it's like 18 months last I checked. So if you apply the day after you win asylum, and then 18 months later, they finally pick it up, at that time, it's true that you don't have proof of the physical presence required to get the green card because you applied. You sent all your stuff in, before you reached 1 year of physical presence post asylum grant. But what they do is they send you a request for evidence. They say, oh, we see that you applied and you didn't have evidence of physical presence for 1 year after winning asylum. So please send us that evidence. And you do that and they grant asylum. I think that there's virtually no risk of them putting you in deportation proceedings, even if they pick up your application sooner than that and they say, oh, no physical presence of 1 year in the U.S. post asylum, therefore denied. They could deny your application, but they shouldn't put you in deportation proceedings because you still have asylum status. And if you have asylum status, you're in status and you're not really eligible to be put in deportation proceedings. So I think the risk is low and we continue to do it. I recommend doing it, applying as soon as possible after winning asylum. Right. Mia says, I'm thinking of moving from New York to New Jersey. Is the court in New Jersey worse than New York? Thanks. Good question. The question is this: is it better to be an asylum seeker in New York or New Jersey? This is tricky. Look, if your case is with the asylum office, if you have what's called an affirmative asylum case with USCIS, it's better to be in New Jersey. But if you're in immigration court proceedings, if you're in what they call deportation proceedings, and your case is with a judge in immigration court, it's a little bit better to be with New York than New Jersey. The approval rates in immigration court are usually a little bit higher in New York than in New Jersey. But the asylum office is weird. In New York, the New York Asylum Office has a very low approval rate. It's one of the hardest places to win asylum in the whole country. But the court there has a high approval rate. So, again, in summary, with the asylum office, you want to be in New Jersey. Immigration court, New York is preferable. But the difference in immigration court between New York and New Jersey usually isn't huge, but there is a huge difference between the approval rate at the asylum offices. The New Jersey asylum office is much better in terms of approval rate than the New York asylum office. All right. All right. Yilin Ong wants to know, hey Brian, how early can your team prepare a mock interview once I get scheduled date from USCIS after suing the Mandamus lawsuit? I mean, we'll schedule it right away. Once you get that interview notice, we'll schedule it right away. Yilin Ong, it's one of our clients, by the way. Who always says I'm not, who comes on here frequently on YouTube and says that they're our client. All right. And thank you for being a client, by the way, Yilin. We appreciate you. We know that it's a huge decision. Look, who you hire to be your asylum lawyer is a massive decision because it's something that's really important, right? We're talking about your security, your safety. We're talking about the future, the life you want to build here in America. So, look, it's a big deal, and we take it seriously. We take that responsibility that we have very seriously, and we appreciate the opportunity to support you. Okay. Good question over here from Amin Neb says, is the assigning of military lawyers as immigration judges something that could reduce our chances of winning asylum cases? Yes. The question is this: will the fact that the Trump administration is assigning government military lawyers to serve as temporary immigration judges, is that something that's going to be bad for asylum seekers, going to hurt their chances for winning? Probably. Look, a lot of these military lawyers are serious, sophisticated people, good lawyers. But the problem is that most of them have no background in immigration. I've read they're going to get about 2 weeks of training on how to be an immigration judge. Immigration law is extremely complex. And actually, the Trump administration just changed that requirement. It used to be to be a temporary immigration judge, you had to have 10 years of experience in immigration law. Now they're just saying, no, you don't have to have any experience in immigration law. We're going to give you 2 weeks of training. So look, you're going to have a bunch of judges that don't know anything virtually about immigration law. And, they're just of this military mindset that is probably not super pro-immigrant, at least, to put it mildly. I think that someone who doesn't know, isn't that familiar with the law, and who is probably being pressured by the government, by the administration, to deny more people, is probably going to deny more people. So yeah, that's a long way of saying that I think that they will deny more people than is currently the case. So yeah, it's a bad thing for asylum seekers, I think. All right. So Neil wants to know, can mental illness help to get asylum? Good question. The question is this: can the fact that you're facing a mental health challenge, like a mental illness, can that help you to get asylum? I mean, not the mere fact that you have a mental illness or mental health challenges, that fact itself doesn't really help you. But if you're being persecuted in your country, or there's a real risk of you being gravely harmed in your country because of that, then there might be an argument for it. It's a little bit complicated, actually. It's not a super straightforward case. Your lawyer, your asylum lawyer, has to make the argument that you're what's called a member of a particular social group of people that have like a mental health issue, or that you somehow fit into some kind of category of people that is widely persecuted, like on a grand scale in your country. And this might work, like based around mental illness. This particular social group might be viable. It might work, but it's tricky. So it's something I think you should definitely talk with an asylum lawyer about. All right. Quadruple A wants to know on YouTube, uh, uh, what kind of evidence does the person need to provide to prove conversion and religious practice? Good question. So the question is this: what kind of evidence should you supply in support of your asylum case where it's based on religion? Like, let's say you converted from one religion to another and now you're a member of this new religion. What kind of evidence would be good to support this kind of case? Well, look, first of all, more important than any kind of documents or evidence would be is how you testify about it. The officer wants to know, can you talk about this whole experience in a fluent way that feels and sounds like it's coming from someone who's really lived through it? You don't have to be an expert on your new religion, but you have to be able to answer questions sort of about your own personal development and your own personal journey through, your old, what your life was like under your old faith, and what was it that started this, your journey towards the new faith. What was it like? What were you feeling? Why did it happen? There's basically, you just got to sound like someone who has really been through what you're claiming to have been through. So you got to be able to talk about all these things in a lot of detail. Now, in terms of actual evidence and like documents, yeah, things like if you are a member of a church, like a certificate that says that, or pictures of you at church, or pictures of you getting baptized, or I don't know what the religion is, but pictures of you doing the religious things that are unique to that new religion can be helpful. Letters, witness letters from people who know you well and know your religious practices well, or people at your new faith center, whatever the case may be. It's just, there's lots of things that, if we are your lawyers, we get to know you, we get to know your case, and then we make a big list of things. We say, hey, these are the things we think could be helpful as evidence. Try to get as much as you can. So we do that through a list. All right. You're welcome, Yilanong. Uh, how can I move my case, affirmative asylum case, from New York to New Jersey? You have to move. You have to move to the jurisdiction of the New Jersey Asylum Office. You can't just uh, yeah, you can't just um, asked to move cases. Yeah, you have to move. You have to change your address, and you should do that honestly. You shouldn't lie about that. Some people are tempted often to lie about their address for the purpose of getting uh, their case to a more favorable asylum office in terms of the approval rate. But I recommend against that. That's immigration fraud. You can get in big trouble for that, and it's just ethically um, not a good thing in my opinion. Honesty is the best policy. Okay. All right. uh, does the office, going back to this question of religion and like how to support a religion case, does the officer test your knowledge in your new religion? Not really. Like they don't know. They're not going to say, if let's say you say, oh, I converted to Christianity, they're not going to say, well, tell me, quote from you, what does John 3:16 say? They don't do like little tests like that, but they need you to be, they want to see, can you talk about what your journey was like into that new religion, what you do for it now, what it means to you now, why you decided to convert, how you feel about your new religion, what you like, maybe what you don't like. So it's more about you and your experiences than it is like, do you know little pop quiz answers about your religion. Okay. On YouTube, somebody with the name Nobody on YouTube wants to know, hey Brian, is it safe not to answer a specific question related to your protected ground at the interview for privacy reasons? Good question. The question is this: is it okay to just refuse to answer questions at your asylum interview? Like if you are being asked about something that's very sensitive, or maybe you're worried that, if it got back to your government or got out, it could be embarrassing or even dangerous for you. Can you just sort of say, sorry, I don't want to talk about that? Not really. Not if you want to win your case, honestly. Um, it's your burden to give the officer the information they need to see whether you qualify for asylum. And if you are refusing to answer questions that they think are important, they're going to say, sorry, you didn't meet your burden to show me that you qualify for asylum. So, yeah, unfortunately, if you want to have a good chance of winning your case, you got to pretty much answer what they ask you. I do think USCIS does a pretty good job of protecting people's privacy. I'm not aware of USCIS revealing sensitive information about asylum applicants to their host governments or anyone back in their country. I'm not saying it's impossible for that to happen, but I think they do a pretty good job of around privacy concerns like this, for what it's worth. All right. Even with the current situation in Venezuela, do you think they're going to deny a higher percentage of asylum cases? Aranzazu Rodriguez says, Aranzazu, yo tengo un canal de YouTube en español, en Asilo Aprobado se llama, Asilo Aprobado. Um, yeah, yeah, even with the hectic, crazy situation in Venezuela, both in terms of just what's going on in Venezuela, but also the moment of tension in our U.S. relations with Venezuela. Yeah, I don't think that's going to help Venezuela. I think they're going to increasingly deny more and more people for asylum, including Venezuelans. Okay. Is it better to apply for asylum on a student visa? It's better in the sense that if you still have status when if you get a negative decision on your asylum case and you still have your student status, then you won't get put in deportation proceedings. Yeah, that's beneficial. I think some people think it's not. Some asylum seekers are like, oh no, I don't want to have status because I do want to get put in deportation proceedings if I get a negative decision from USCIS, so that I'll have a second chance to explain my case and a second chance to win asylum, and that will be before the judge. I think it's better to not get put in deportation proceedings, but you know, it just depends, I guess, on your approach. Nice. Junior Richard says, I just paid for my consultation for Saturday. Can't wait to hear from you and keep up the good work. Awesome. Junior, I'm glad you scheduled a consultation with us. Guys, Junior just scheduled a consultation. If you guys want to schedule a consultation, go do it right now. You don't need to wait till this show is over, till this live is over. You can literally go right now. Just open up a new tab and go to winasylum.com. WINASYLUM.com. Again, winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com. Okay? WINASYLUM.com. All right. Go to winasylum.com. To schedule the consultation. So Mauricio on YouTube says our attorney wasn't able to send our asylum statement and all supporting documents via email due to very big size of PDF files. Is it okay if we bring everything in hard copy to our interview? You might need a new lawyer, Mauricio. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for your lawyer to say, "Oh, sorry, the file size was too big. I couldn't send in all your supporting documents." That's unacceptable. There are software tools that will compress PDF files to make them smaller, but even then, if they're still too big, you can just break them up into multiple files and even send multiple emails if you have to. Well, look. Actually, let me back up. Mauricia, I don't know if your case is a paper case or an electronic case. Mauricia, will you tell me in the comments right now, did you apply for asylum online through my USCIS or did you apply on paper through physical mail? If you applied online through my USCIS, yeah, it's true that there are size limits on the PDFs that you can upload. But first of all, you can compress them to make them smaller. And then if it's still too big, you can break them up into much smaller chunks and just upload all of them. It doesn't matter if you need to do 2 different PDFs or 20 in order to get it all uploaded, but your lawyer should do that for you. It's inexcusable to say, oh, sorry, the PDF was too big. Nope, not a good excuse. If it's on paper, then if you applied on paper, then you need to be sending the physical copies of all the stuff by paper, by mail ahead of time. You should do that at least a week, ideally 2 weeks ahead of time, at least 1 week ahead of time, okay? If you just show up on the day of your interview and you have not uploaded or sent by physical mail this evidence ahead of time, and you just say, here's 1,000 pages of documents that I want you to consider for my case, they're almost certainly, there's a good chance they're going to reschedule your interview, which is not good. Mauricio says, paper case, we applied 10 years ago through attorney. Look, they need to send it ahead of time, at least a week ahead of time by physical mail. And I recommend that they also send it by email, okay? Like I said, they can compress the PDFs and they can cut them up into smaller PDFs and send multiple emails. if you just show up on the day of your interview with a bunch of documents, they might say, sorry, we can't do the interview today because I need time. The officer needs time to review them, and it may take hours. So, yeah. And you don't want them to reschedule your interview. Usually they reschedule them quickly, like within a few weeks or months after the originally scheduled date, but sometimes not. Sometimes cases fall through the cracks and it may take many months or even years to get the reschedule set up. So you do not want to have to be in a position where they might reschedule your interview. Oh, nice. King Levinsky says on YouTube, just came from my interview. Thank you for your videos. They really help. Waiting for the decision. Awesome. Glad to hear that you appreciated the videos. They helped you with your interview. King Levinsky, let me ask you, what was your favorite video? What video was most helpful for you? Did you watch the one about the 133 asylum questions, which actually is over 400 questions? It's titled 133 asylum interview questions, but I went kind of crazy and I gave like over 400. Was it that you're likely to be asked at your interview? Was that video one of them that helped you, or was it something else that you found the most helpful? Let us know, King. Let us know in the comments what video was most helpful for you. Yeah, that's what King says. Yeah, King says the one with 133 and more questions. I'm gonna put the link to that asylum interview training. No, I'm gonna call it asylum interview questions. It's at asylumquestions.com is the URL where you guys can find that. Asylumquestions.com. I'm typing that. I'm gonna paste it in the chat, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. It's all there on the chat. Asylumquestions.com is this resource that where you can find a super long, very detailed training that I did all about the questions you're going to get at your interview. And over on YouTube, you'll see that King, who was that? King, what was your name? King Levinsky just said that they came from the interview just now, or they had their interview, and that the videos were very helpful, and this one in particular was helpful. Go to asylumquestions.com if you want to get that free training. Okay. All right. Mia says, I'm an asylum seeker from Russia. Вот, привет, Mia. And donated to the Ukrainian army. Now the Russian authorities arrest supporters of Ukraine. I'm afraid to go back. Is it a good idea to add the facts of the donations to the declaration? Yes, it's very much relevant. It's very much relevant, Mia. Yeah, for sure. Add the facts, talk about it in your declaration, and I would provide evidence of the donations as well. If you can take screenshots of like something that shows that you made the donations, like from your bank account or also from anything you got from wherever you donated through, like the website, a confirmation that shows the donations. Yeah. Yep. Look, guys, I was just telling you, look, if you show up on the day of your interview and you bring a bunch of documents that you haven't submitted ahead of time, and you're like, oh, here's some documents for my case, there's a good chance they'll reschedule. Remember I just said that a second ago? Well, someone literally on YouTube just now said that's what happened to them. Jora Moiso says, hey, Brian, thank you for what you're doing for us. I attended the interview last week. Documents were submitted the same day of the interview. Officer said the documents need to be reviewed, and the interview rescheduled. So yeah, that happened to Jora Moiso said. Oh, but then you said that you just realized that you failed to appear at the interview. What's going on? So you didn't get. I guess you never saw the interview notice, right? The reschedule notice. You should contact the asylum office right away and explain what happened. Explain, hey, they said they were going to reschedule. I just realized I missed it. I didn't explain what happened. If you didn't get the notice, explain that and say, hey, could you please reschedule it again? Okay, that's what you should do. All right. Oh, nice. Life Love 729, one of our clients here, says, we finished our interview last week on September 2nd. A nudge helped me with my case. Awesome. Let me ask you, Life Love 729, was the mock asylum interview that we did with you, the practice interview, was it helpful? Was it something that gave you confidence and helped you prepare and ended up being actually helpful? And was it similar to what happened on the day of the real interview? Let me know what you think about that. Was the mock interview helpful? Curious to know what you think. All right, guys, look, that's going to be it for today. Oh, Navi Singh has their interview next week in Chicago. Navi, go to asylumprep.com. Please go to asylumprep.com. I think you're going to like what we have to tell you about there. Okay. There's time if you want to get our help with what we call the mock asylum interview experience. There's still time. If your interview is next week, there's still time to do that. But you would have to schedule the consultation today to do it tomorrow, and do it tomorrow if you might want to get our help with what we call the mock asylum interview experience. And you can find out all about that, the mock asylum interview experience, on this website, asylumprep.com. 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 All right. Look, I'm Brian Manning. I'm a former asylum officer. Now I'm an asylum lawyer. And my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. And I'm glad that you were here today. And I'm going to be live again at about 11 a.m. U.S. Central Time, which is noon Eastern, or 9 a.m. California time, tomorrow on Tuesday. All right. So we'll see you then. Come back then. Bring your questions. Think tonight about what questions you want to ask. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? And we're going to address those tomorrow. Until then, as always, it's true.